Welcome back, guys. Another Brokowskis YouTube video. Today we got 12 waiver wire targets. If you should pick them up, don't pick them up, how much you should invest in them. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We're going to try again for 100 likes if we can. That would be awesome. Let's get right into it. So first up, we got A.J. Dillon. What do you think about A.J. Dillon?
I would say A.J. Dillon right now is by far the best waiver wire going into Week 11. Aaron Jones went down. Aaron Jones is doubtful. There's a great chance he's not going to play. A.J. Dillon this past week, 21 carries, 2 catches, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's an amazing stat line. What was he, like third RB on the week, third best RB on Sunday? An absolute stud play. He's like an auto high-end RB2, low-end RB1 if Aaron Jones is out. So if any chance that A.J. Dillon's on your waiver wire, don't hesitate for a second to make a claim and try to pick him up.
Yeah, I completely agree. If A.J. Dillon's there, pick him up. With Aaron Jones gone, elite play. Next up, we got Ramondre Stevenson.
Ramondre Stevenson, I'm mid on him. He had a great game. What was he? The RB2 this past Sunday, but a little bit of a problem is I think Damien Harris might be okay. And also Ramondre does have way more upside than Harris because Ramondre does get the targets, but Bolden was playing a lot of the Patriots' third downs. Stevenson wasn't getting a ton of catches. He got 4 catches, which is not bad at all. He got 20 carries, but if Damien Harrison plays this week, I don't love Ramondre. I don't think he's amazing.
Just to go off of that, he had 20 of the 32 rushes for the team. He had 4 catches, which was actually 1 more than Bolden. So he did get more catches than Bolden. But with he said, if Harris plays, do not start Ramondre Stevenson. When Harris is out, Stevenson is a great play. That's what we're going to do there. So if he's on your waivers, pick him up. If you have a guy on your bench you can drop, but don't go after him super hard.
And if you have a league with Fab, I wouldn't spend a lot of Fab on him. I wouldn't really spend any unless you have Harris. If you don't own Damien Harris, don't go out and spend a lot of Fab on Ramondre.
Next up, we got Cam Newton.
Cam Newton, I'm mid-tier on him. He obviously wasn't starting. He only threw 4 passes, completed 3 of them, didn't play a lot. I'm just mid on him. What do you think?
In my opinion, if you need a quarterback, Cam Newton's on your waivers, pick him up right now. I think Cam Newton has great upside. I'm not saying he's for sure going to hit it, but I'm just thinking the upside is there. With the goal line work, he's probably going to take away from CMC. I would go after Cam Newton, personally.
Yeah, this is a good question. If Taysom Hill takes over the starting job, who do you like more? Cam Newton starter or Taysom Hill starter?
I would probably lean Taysom a little bit.
I agree.
Taysom a little bit. But I think there's a better chance Cam's going to start than Taysom's going to start.
If Cam takes over, what is he rostered in now? 16% of leagues on NFL Fantasy. If he takes over, I would say he's like a mid quarterback 2, maybe around the 15 mark. Just because he's not going to throw a lot of passing yards. He'll get some rushing touchdowns.
I think if you have quarterback problems, personally, I have Kyler Murray who's injured. I would pick up Cam Newton. I tried picking up Cam Newton. I wasn't able to get him. I think you should pick him up if he's there. Next up, we got Tyler Conklin. What do you think about Conklin?
Tyler Conklin, what was his stats this Sunday? He got 5 targets, 3 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 11 yards. He's not a target hog on that team at all. Dalvin Cook coming back is going to take a lot of the red zone. I know Conklin did get 2 touchdowns. That obviously is not going to continue. I wouldn't pick up Conklin. I'm not big on him. What do you think?
I'm going to read his targets the last 3 games. 5 yesterday, 7 the game before, 7 the game before. So it's actually solid targets. Again, I wouldn't be going heavy for Conklin. Again, if you're super desperate for a tight end, he's a decent play, but I wouldn't be going after him super hard.
I agree.
Next up, we got Dan Arnold, another tight end.
Dan Arnold, now I like Dan Arnold a lot more than I like Conklin. I know Conklin put up more points, but he only had 11 yards. Arnold, on the other hand, last 3 games, 7 targets, 10 targets. He gets a good amount of receiving yards. He's debatably one of the best receivers on the Jags. Marvin Jones is probably the best. Then Chenault's underperforming. Agnew just got injured but came back. He's not really a great receiver. Dan Arnold is one of the best pass catchers on this offense.
Yeah, I would agree. I want to go after him heavy, but I probably do like him more than Conklin. The 7 targets, 10 targets is nice the last 3 games. And they were using him in the red zone. They almost got a touchdown. He got the 2-point conversion. You like to see that. So I would pick up Arnold over Conklin. Next up, we got Van Jefferson. What do you think about Van Jefferson?
Van Jefferson, I really think Van Jefferson depends a lot on this Monday night game. We could see, there's a chance Van Jefferson takes over that Robert Woods role. Maybe he plays a wide receiver too, and maybe Odell's just not as good as we all think he is. But there's always that chance. There's probably a better chance Odell's going to slip into that role and Van Jefferson's going to stay the 3. If he's the 3, he's like a back of the bench player. I wouldn't go out crazy to pick him up. I wouldn't spend any really fab on him. But he's a solid end of the bench player. What are you saying?
I'm picking up Van Jefferson right now because I think Odell is going to be a little limited tonight. Jefferson's going to take that Woods role tonight, and you could probably trade him tomorrow. Worst case scenario, he doesn't do well, and you have him, and he's the 3 on the Rams, so you can just drop him. I would go after Jefferson. I would try to pick him up. I think he has value. Once Odell gets more situated, I think he loses a ton of the value. But this week, next week, I do like Jefferson a lot.
I agree. He could be a solid play the next couple of weeks.
Next, we got Kendrick Bourne.
Kendrick Bourne, I will not touch Kendrick Bourne. Like, the Patriots just don't throw the ball enough. They're a running team. What's his targets the last couple of games?
He was 4-4-7-4.
Like, just not great. He had 2 touchdowns. That's why he had a good performance. His points per
touchdown.
game. 1 touchdown. Even worse. Points per game. What's this guy's points per game? 11. He's the wide receiver 41 before this game, so he probably moves up into like a low-end wide receiver 3. I'd pick him up if you're in like a deep 14, maybe even 12 if you're desperate, but I don't know. I'm not big on
if you're in a super deep league, I'll consider it. I don't like Kendrick Bourne going forward. He had the 3 rushes, which is good to see they're getting him the ball, but I do not like him long term. I would not pick him up unless you are mad desperate. Do not spend any fab on him. That's my opinion on Kendrick Bourne. Next, we got Robbie Anderson.
Now, Robbie Anderson is a player I actually like because right when Cam came in, who's the first guy he threw that red zone target to? Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson's available in a lot of leagues. So many people gave up on him. He didn't have an insane amount of targets, but that's because PJ Walker was just dumping the ball off to CMC. I think when Cam steps in, there's a chance Robbie Anderson kind of goes back to that last year form. I think he could be solid, and if he's there, I wouldn't spend a lot of fab, but he's there, I'd pick him up.
I personally disagree. I do not like Robbie. I probably wouldn't pick him up. I would have him slightly ahead of Bourne, but I don't think either are worth a pickup. His last few games, 6 targets, 3 targets, 1 target. Those are terrible, terrible numbers. Cam Newton's not going to elevate this passing offense. If anything, it's going to help the run offense. He's going to get the red zone touches. I do not like Robbie Anderson going forward. Next, we got Matt Breida.
Matt Breida, don't touch Matt Breida. This dude played 8 snaps, got 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't touch him.
Do not touch Matt Breida. Do not pick him up. The 18 fantasy points look really good. Don't pick him up. He's going to be the 3rd string running back.
I think one of the only reasons he played is because Zach Moss was in concussion protocol. Zach Moss still played by far the most snaps, but I think they gave Breida a little bit because Moss wasn't 100%, so don't touch Breida at all.
Next, we got Mac Jones. What do you think about Mac Jones?
Don't touch him. 23 pass attempts in a game where they scored 45 points. Mac Jones is not going to put up insane points. The game before this, he had 6 points. The game before that, he had 11 points. He's had games, like so many games under 12 points. I would not touch Mac Jones. He's like right now for me the RB or the QB 21. What would you say about him?
I would not pick up Mac Jones. I don't like him that much. The 23 pass attempts is not good. 18 last week, even worse. Does not have a lot of passing yards. He did look good though. In the next 2 matchups, Atlanta 30th against quarterbacks, Tennessee 27th against quarterbacks. Again, if you are super desperate, he might be worth a pickup there. But I think there are so many other quarterbacks on the waiver wire that are worth a pickup. I would not pick up Mac Jones.
Like, you could still be desperate, but I think there's still Kirk Cousins, Wentz, Carr, Burrow. There's so many of that lower tier guys that are still a tier above Mac Jones that I wouldn't worry about him at all.
Next, we got Bryan Edwards.
Bryan Edwards didn't have the best game. He put up good fantasy points, but numbers-wise, 4 targets, 3 catches. He got 88 yards and a touchdown, so like the targets aren't there. But there's always that opportunity for someone to step into that Henry Ruggs role, and maybe that's Edwards. At least there was a little bit of hope that he got a deep touchdown. Deshaun Jackson obviously fumbled the ball in that deep catch. He's probably going to play the more Henry Ruggs role, but I still think there's a bit of a gap where targets could be led to Bryan Edwards. I think Bryan Edwards could be solid. I wouldn't spend a lot on him, but I still think he is worth maybe a back of the bench play in like a 12 or 14 man league. I wouldn't go crazy out and get him, but I still like Bryan Edwards a little bit.
Yeah, I'm mid on Bryan Edwards. Just reading his last 4 games and targets, 4, 4, 4, 4. So he's consistent, but consistently not great. Again, I agree with the Ruggs being gone. The upside is there. He could step up. So I would pick him up over Robbie. I would pick him up over Kendrick Bourne. Yeah. I would pick up Van Jefferson over him, though. Jefferson would be my number 1 out of those. Bryan Edwards would be the number 2. But again, I'm not heavily targeting him. I think he does have upside, but it's upside you want to stick on your bench in case something crazy happens end of the year.
I would say Van Jefferson has the most upside next couple of weeks. But I think end of season, if you're going to say one guy has the most upside itself, I would give it to Robbie Anderson. Just in, like, what if Cam turns into old Super Cam a little bit? Maybe Robbie becomes his favorite target. But yeah, I agree. Bryan Edwards is below both those guys, in my opinion.
And then lastly, at 12, we got Pat Freiermuth.
Pat Freiermuth, he's actually pretty solid. 9 targets. The backup was in. But when Big Ben was in, he was getting 7 targets, 2 touchdowns. I like Pat Freiermuth. He's like a low-end tight end one for me. If he's on your waivers, I'd pick him up.
Yeah, for me, the big thing this week that was concerning was Eric Ebron coming back. But Ebron did return yesterday. Freiermuth still got 9 targets, 5 catches, 31 yards. He did lose that fumble, which was a big hit to the Steelers. I do like Freiermuth going forward. I would pick him up. I think he's worth a back-end tight end role. If you are, again, super desperate, you could start Freiermuth. I like the pickup. I like him better than Conklin. I like him better than Dan Arnold.
Yeah.
He would be my number 1 tight end pickup this week. So I would say pick him up if you need a tight end.
Yeah, I'm surprised a lot of leagues still have Pat on their waivers. He's getting a lot of targets recently. He's probably like top 12 by far for tight end targets. He's getting a lot of tight end targets. If he's on your waivers, boys, pick him up. And thank you, boys, so much for watching the video. If you want to see another video, another one should be suggested right here. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe because we're coming out with Week 11 starts and sits soon. And thanks, boys, for hopping in. See y'all later.